Hello, you are listening to Talking Blues. My name is Matthew Gilsenan, and I am a singer tenor with the Celtic Tenors, and I'm thrilled to be here with you.
Matthew, you were just in Canada last week touring, and parts of the U.S., I presume.
Mm-hmm.
Are you back
Yeah.
to the non-touring life? Are you back home? Are you settled in?
Back with a bang. I'm just back, and since COVID, I have had another string to my bow so that I can keep the kids fed and keep the whole show going. So I'm an engineer by trade, and I when COVID happened, even though I'd been doing nothing but singing for 25 years, all of a sudden, bang, I got an opportunity to. So that is keeping the Celtic Tenors, which is still it was on really really heavy life support. I think now we're no longer intubated. We might have a bit of oxygen from time to time, and we're moving out of intensive care. So we're in a process of change at the moment.
So, did you go home and start working on your engineering
Yeah.
gig?
Home straight away and back to 260 emails and uh, the grind.
Okay, I mean, I find it amazing that you went to school for engineering, and you actually worked as an engineer for 5 or 6 years, decided to pursue this
Mhm.
dream of playing music or singing music.
Yeah.
And then COVID hits like 25 years later, and you go and get another engineering job just like that. Like, I don't know what you did in between, but like, was it easy to go
It's
back
only
into that?
well, you know what? I thought that it was going to be very hard. And I thought that it wasn't going to be possible. My wife was she was a PA to a CEO of a company, and she had also not done that for a long time. And we had always had the discussion, through the years. Well, she's got way more transferable skills, and she's going to be way more employable. But as it turns out, the laws of physics hadn't changed, and
Wow.
engineering is still very much engineering. And the level of transferable skills when you're actually communicating with people for a living is it, it, it's kind of almost the missing link from a graduate to a seasoned engineer when you think about it. It's how you communicate, if you're aware of not hurting somebody's feelings, or if you have an agenda that you need to move, or the way that you can achieve the things that you need to achieve. Whether you're an engineer or not doesn't really matter. If you're just a human who has made their way in the world, that's more important. So it really surprised me, Marco. It really did.
Can you explain what kind of engineering it was? Like, what is it that you do?
Yeah. Yeah. So I worked. I went to University College Dublin, which is a very very even though I don't want to be toot my own horn too much, but it's probably the best engineering school in Ireland. And I did a degree in agricultural and food engineering back in. I graduated in 1992, and I really, really loved it. And I worked in actually in the food machinery industry back then. We made bread. I actually lived and worked in California. I did a big project with Nabisco
Oh,
on their Ritz line, um, um, and but now I got involved in data centers. So and I also did a master's, or a portion of a master's, in Trinity College in Dublin in the last 2 or 3 years, on sustainable development for businesses. So
wow.
I'm now in the area of trying to trying to show and actually be sustainable as a company, and help our company become much more responsible from a sort of a social responsibility standpoint. It's really really interesting. There are so that that's the area that I'm in now, and it's very interesting.
I know your dad was an engineer as well, so I presume that has something to do with your pursuit of this. But when you talk about it, you seem to have the same passion that one has maybe when talking about music. So
Yeah, I think it's about the person that got made rather than what the person does. And I think the same could be said. I enjoy I enjoy people. I enjoy challenges. I really I'm only happy when I'm working hard, and I think all of those things probably came from not even the engineering side, but more the fact that I'm from a family of farmers. So even though my two brothers, my sister's a physicist, but they're all engineers. But we have robots on the farm milking cows, and stuff goes wrong with robots. So you're out there with your laptop and you're plugging in and you're figuring out what's the matter and is it a sensor or what is it? So I think an attitude of systems thinking is kind of inherently in our DNA, or at least in how we were brought up. And I think that maybe to a certain degree shapes how we approach things, no matter what world we're in.
I'd be curious to find out how you approach music that way.
Well, I think that for me, I was never. I think I might be dyslexic. I was always shocking at reading music, but I always had a very good ear. And I was also very interested always in having several things running in tandem. So the idea of harmony was something that really floated my boat, and so the way I think all of these systems come together just fascinates me. If you're singing solo, something that's totally a cappella and solo, there's something very engineering about, number one, singing in tune. Number two, understanding how to have enough air to get to the end of the phrase. But I would say that only takes you so far. The other part which is the kind of the magic, is the absolute love, and maybe there's an engineering side of it too, to try to understand what's this thing that's grabbing my soul and making me feel so unbelievably alive. And that's part of the concoction that I don't have the answer for.
If I understand correctly, your dad also
Mhm.
sang and probably was
Mhm. And
very
still does, yeah.
instrumental in your.
No, but yes. Sorry to talk across you, Mako, but yes, he sang, but never went to a music lesson in his life. He played the harmonica. He would play the Jew's harp. He would play. He would, and he would take us to shows, and we would sit at the front looking into the orchestra pit, sort of saying, "Look at that drummer! My God, isn't he amazing?" Or "Look at that instrumentalist! Aren't they amazing?" I think what he gave me was a sense of awe and absolute respect for all of the elements of how one makes music. And as well as that, he encouraged us to, because I was a natural singer from when I was very small. He and my mom, and we had a kind of a relatively young country in the 70s in Ireland here, where we're asserting our nationality, our nationalism, and asserting our love of our language that almost died, the love of our traditional music that almost died, and celebrating it, and there was a concentration of all of this in almost every family, I would say, in Ireland in the 70s and 80s. And that kind of gave started to bring in influences. So we were sent to violin lessons, to piano lessons, to tin whistle lessons. So all of these, and we would have parties where we'd stand up and recite a poem, or we would sing a song, and the song would invariably be a song of some hero in Irish history, either in Irish or in English, and so that was a very, very strong part of the fabric of growing up, coupled with the fact that I was in school in just a normal national school, like the same as everybody in Ireland. And even though it's not really important in the mix, I was brought up Catholic, like most of Ireland. Within the group, within the Celtic tenors group, over the years, we've had Protestants from the south of Ireland, Presbyterian from the north, Catholic from the north. There's always been a really interesting mix of cultures. The church music for me was also a big part because it was absolutely hermetically sealed and joined with school. So school, mass, singing all of the bits, uh, uh, coupled with learning guitar, coupled with wrestling with trying to sing and sing and play Peter Green, Fleetwood Mac, all of these kinds of things, as well as all of the music of the day. The Yeah, you can see the cauldron is beginning to fill up with lots and lots of ingredients.
If we go back a little bit, you referred to yourself as a young kid who was a natural singer. Can you define that for me? It's just you just had a natural ability. Is that what it is?
Yeah, so I just love to sing. I didn't really even realize that I was singing. I think it was maybe a sense of mimicking what was going on around me. Um, I, I think in school we had a very, very musical. Two of the teachers in our primary school were very, very musical, and we were always singing in school. So when I'd go home, I was immediately singing, listening to the radio, singing what I heard on the radio, and I wasn't. There was nothing stopping me because I lived in the middle of the countryside, surrounded by fields full of cows. And I would be my job would be to bring in the cows for milking. So I go up 3 or 4 fields away where there was even fewer people, and I would sing my head off. And there were some of the older. There was always tended to be the older girls in the school were singing because I was also the thing that was really weird was that I was a boy and I was absolutely in love with music, and I was singing all of the things. So the older girls in sixth class, they were singing. The teacher was had decided to teach them the Holy City for Easter, a big song, and I heard them through the wall in school, and I was home learning it. And I found a way to get the words, and I came. And my grandmother, who used to pick me up from school, she said to my teacher, she said, "This yes, this grandson of mine, he's singing all of these extraordinary songs around the farm. What's going on?" But I was a natural singer, so I was collared by this teacher for any singing that was required, whether it was in school or in church. I was the go-to person. I had a louder voice. I had I don't know what for whatever reason, and it was for that reason then that led into the competitions and stuff, which kind of gave it a more formal sort of validation, if you will.
I was going to ask you about the competition, and you won the soloist competition.
Yeah, so I won solos, and I won for my region, and then I won for my province, and then I won the All Ireland, and I did that a few times.
What did
And
that do to
we
you?
also It gave me a great confidence because even though I was dressed in my mother's, actually, Agatha Mulvaney, our neighbour, she had a red silk blouse, so I was wearing this red silk blouse and a cravat, and my mother would blow dry my hair, and I'd be up singing La Golondrina or something like this, and I didn't care. because the payback that I was getting was I was doing something that I couldn't quite I couldn't understand it really. It was me in front of 1,000 people singing my heart out, and they were clapping and smiling. And so this again, back to systems thinking. You do a thing, you get a response, you react to that response, and you want to do more of it.
When I do research and I read things, I know that I'm not always getting the true facts, but there was something referring to at a certain age, you stop singing because you were either embarrassed by it or you didn't think it was cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not. Did that such a thing happen?
Well, no, my wife will tell you. So I was yeah, certainly the more classical stuff. So my mum, and so Ireland was living in an age post John McCormack age. I don't know if you've ever heard of John McCormack, Mako, but John McCormack was probably one of the greatest stars of his time in the 1910s and 20s. He was able to fill any number of concert halls in America. He was an operatic tenor that had started singing Irish music, and he was massively wealthy. He made 885 recordings
Wow.
back at that time. He was superseded by Bing Crosby when the microphone came along. He was a huge star, and Ireland still remembered that, and remembered how famous and how important and how he actually became a world star that kind of put Ireland on the map a little bit. So there was always a sense that from my adult peers, from my parents' peers, that I should get my voice trained, and I was very against that. That was at a point in time when I discovered the guitar. I discovered Leonard Cohen. I discovered Simon and Garfunkel. All I was interested in was learning how to play these pieces and singing them, and to have to sing something that was classical was it couldn't be more opposite to what I wanted, or where I felt that I should be going. And I wasn't thinking in any way career wise or anything at this point in time. I was just being free and feral almost, doing what I want.
But your
And
love of the singing didn't change.
No, my love of the singing didn't change. The type of singing that was required, and so I was being kind of channeled into church music, into classical music that I just had no interest in at all at that particular time. When I was 14, 15. I was still singing folk songs, and from time to time, highly embarrassing things. Like I'll never forget, and my wife reminds me of this one. So when I was in secondary school, I was still singing. So I was given the lead in a musical called The Wild Rover, and that it was kind of a co-pro between the local convent of girls, and I was in the Christian Brothers. I ended up at one point getting taken down to sing some of my solos to, and I was aged, just mid-pubescent, 14-year-old, and stood in front of a school of 1,000 gorgeous girls, and I sang, and that was the worst thing for my street cred in my mind. And my wife agrees. The nuns brought me down to sing for them. How embarrassing is that? So that didn't do me any good. But then time went on, and I did my degree. Well, I got into my, so I passed through high school, as you'd call it, and I got to the point where I got into university. And in my first week or so in university, my mum took me by the collar, by the scruff of the neck, really, and brought me into a singing teacher called Veronica Dunn in Dublin. She was a very famous woman. She died about 2 years ago, but she was the quintessential singing teacher in Ireland for the classical realm. I had no interest whatsoever. I was doing this to appease my mother. I went in and I had a session with Veronica Dunn. she said, okay, we're going to do this thing. So in parallel with my engineering from first year, I started going to singing lessons. So I went to two singing lessons a week, to 2 half-hour sessions a week, choir, musicianship, and it was in the musicianship choir class that they played music for us. So they played, I think it was Jesse Bierling and Robert Merrill singing the Pearl Fishers duet. And I'd never heard anything like this before. Never, ever, ever. My father would have played cassette tapes in the car, Johann Strauss and the waltzes. That was the max classical music that I'd ever come across. And suddenly to hear this by Bizet, and it was absolutely beautiful from the Pearl Fishers. I couldn't get over how beautiful it was, and that was a transformational moment. That exact moment was a transformational moment when I realized, wow, I wonder can I do that. And within a very short time, I then there's a big festival, a competition in Ireland. It's called the Feis Ceoil. Feis is festival in Irish, and Ceoil is music.
Okay.
And so that's a competition, very, very aggressive competition where people are put up against each other. There are adjudicators come from London, America, Italy, to adjudicate classical singers. And I won the tenor solo. And I won the oratorio, and I started being fit for things like the solos in Handel's Messiah, and that's when I suddenly realized that this is something that really, really, really makes me feel whole somehow. Also, there were lots of girls in choir, and I was in engineering, full of mostly boys who were only interested in drink. I ended up being in a choir once a week with loads and loads of girls and interesting people of all genders, and it was wonderful. So that was so I had this transformational moment of finding Jussi Björling, and then the other transformational moment of finding my tribe.
I can only imagine how difficult, having gone to university, how difficult it was for me to attend first year university, and just how much time was spent just getting used to the university school life,
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
workload. So to
yeah.
add music on top of that, that must have been something else. When you heard that piece, you said, "I wonder if I could do it." Before that, did you play music in bands or in any other form?
I played piano, but I got to about grade four or something like that. So it was all very tawdry music that didn't really float my boat. I learned to play piano. I didn't. Sorry, I learned playing guitar. I mean, I was fairly proficient on the guitar. I was middling at piano. And from national school, from primary school, I'd also got accordion. I never really was any good at violin, but I was quite good at the whistle, and the
Which you
bodhrán
still
and things like
play.
that. So, yeah, which I still play. Only this past tour or two tours have I had the confidence to bring the whistle and the bodhrán into into our shows, and I'm loving it, I must say, and I'm getting better at it every night as well. So yeah, that was a big thing, I suppose.
But like, did you ever, did you play or gig at all, in a
No,
band or no?
no,
Okay.
I only ever played. So I didn't play in any bands until after I graduated. All of my singing was professional classical engagements and church, church every
Okay.
Sunday.
Right. Okay. That makes
So
sense.
that which I didn't really count because everyone in my family did that anyway and still does. So that didn't count. It was the classical stuff was what took off. Now I was still at home, learning all of my blues music and my rock music and my singer songwriter music. I was that that's that that was that was another that was my appetizer or whatever. It was part of
But
my
you weren't going out
part
to
of
the
my
local pub and playing those.
not at all, not at all. From time to time, I'd sing at a ceilidh, or I would sing at a local event. But it was to that point I was a soloist, and yes, I would sing at weddings, I would sing at events, I would in I never got money though for a gig really until I was actually graduated and living in England.
Okay, so you hear that piece and you're blown away about it. You say, "Can I do that?
Yeah.
Can you do that? Could you do that?"
Well, as it turns out, I could, and I was able to attempt those songs, and I was able to see, okay, this is going to be more of a challenge than expected. To be able to sing like Jussi Björling there's it's not a trivial thing to learn to do, and I think what I would say even now is that I'm still learning, and maybe I like the fact that my musical journey was a bit drawn out, and I didn't just suddenly bang get there. It was a process of learning a bit more, mastering a particular technique, uh, getting the some of these classical works under my belt. But to your original question, did I gig? Was I in a band? Not really. The only band that I was in, and this is kind of it was a ballad group. So it was again for the competitions that we did when we were young. So I did it up until the age of about 17 or 18, where myself and four girls, we competitively sang. So we had our harmonies and we sang Irish folk songs, and we won all around us as well.
Okay, so this is interesting to me because obviously you love music, but you don't really pursue performing while you're growing up, except for competitions. Then
Yeah,
your mom says you gotta train classically, be
yeah,
classically trained. I wonder if she
yeah.
didn't push you to that, if you would be where you are today. Like if you would even pursued singing.
I'm sure not. Actually, I'm sure not. I'm sure that I would have just got subsumed into a whole other life. I mean, the engineering world, if you're not careful, or any profession, if you're not careful, it can just suck you in and take you there until you're an old person and spit you out when you're retired. And I've seen that all around me, and I think I didn't, because if I look at my brothers and my sisters, so they kind of, one of my sisters, she didn't follow at all. She didn't do anything like what I did. My second to me, sister Deirdre, she she started singing, and went to the same singing teacher as I did, and she went on to she sang with Michael Flatley in his Lord of the Dance tour for many tours. She bought a fine house from it, and she also did. She was a Celtic woman, so on that show. So what I'm trying to get at is I can see that it was probably only my example that encouraged my siblings to do it. And all of my other cousin sibling, cousins of my and people of my age within our family, nobody else did anything like this. They were either farming, remained in their family business. Most of them didn't go to university, and so and I don't think I was a product of pushy parents, particularly. They were pushing doors that were kind of hanging half open, and I think they saw ambition is a funny thing in my family and for me. I Yes, I see things that I'd like to achieve and I achieve them, but I tended to have a very wide view of what's possible. at a very early age. It was all possible. I'm going to be a doctor. I'm going to be an engineer. I'm going to. I'm going to be a rock star. It was all, there was nothing off limits. And I think there was a process of just refinement as one or more things got knocked away.
When you started working as an engineer, did you at that point pursue music other than take lessons? Like when you
So
said
that was
you felt like something was missing in your life,
yeah,
was there
yeah.
music there?
So there was I was singing. So part of the work that I was doing in my engineering world was I was working in large experimental research spaces. Where there weren't many people, there were three or four people, and there were big panels, and I would open the panels and I'd be working in them, and I would be singing away to myself. And it was only after a little while that fellow employees were saying, "You never stop singing, you know that." And I didn't even realize. So nearly every waking moment, I'm making noise. I'm a noisy person, and it mostly is in the form of singing. And I just sing, sing, sing. So when maybe so I was in that for 5 years. For about the first 2 years, I did no singing whatsoever, and then there was a singing competition going to happen in Ireland. So I was living in England at the time. So I said to myself, I want to get my chops back up. So I talked to my old singing teacher, Mary Brennan, and she put me in touch with a friend of hers, a guy called Robert Alderson. He was based in the Royal Northern in Manchester. So he's a fairly serious teacher. And on Saturdays, I would drive 4 hours to Manchester, have a lesson, and drive 4 hours back.
Wow.
And that's when I really realized. And in the meantime, I had seen there was another kind of threshold moment. I was home one back in Ireland one weekend or one and but Placido Domingo was singing Madame Butterfly in Dublin, or singing yeah, it was Madame Butterfly, a Puccini opera, and it was my first time being at an opera with a proper superstar singing, and that that reinforced made me think, why am I engineering? So that was the first. That was the first kind of real question mark. I can do this after a fashion. It mightn't be as good as him or whatever, but I can do this. Why am I not doing this? Because I could just feel something in my chest boiling up. It was causing a reaction in me physically that nothing else was doing. So I think that was my second sign, and that after a while going to those singing lessons, I was really getting much more comfortable singing again. And there was the director of our company, a guy called Mike Mason. He was a bass player, and he put a band together that I joined, and I became the lead singer. We were called the Masonettes, and we did a number of shows, and it was fantastic. From it was Rolling Stones, Van Morrison, rock and roll, and I even did a few blues songs as well. So that was another new thing. So that was maybe the third point that made me think, okay, I'm going to try something here. So an opportunity arose while I was in England. And actually, I had been in Los Angeles as well for the last year through this UK company, and but I got to the end of a project. It was a really, really very large project that kind of shouldn't have worked, and I was because I was a kind of junior into this company. I was given this project that probably wouldn't work, and the damn thing worked. So I had a huge amount of significantly more responsibility than I should have for my age. So I was around 27 or 26 or 27, and I thought this is an excellent opportunity. I've just finished a body of work. I'm going to see if I can sing for a while. So I took a sabbatical, and I went home to Ireland, and I joined the National Chamber Choir, which was offering money to sing. I would get paid almost the same as what I was getting to be an engineer to sing in a professional choir, and I love that.
And is that
That
what you had
got me.
imagined? Like when you said, "I want to pursue music," was it to sing in a choir?
No, no, it wasn't what I imagined. But what it did do is there was lots of opportunities. So because I didn't really have a clear this sort of wide funnel of it could be anything,
Right.
I'd be happy with anything. Let's see where destiny takes me. I at that point didn't have a focus. I just wanted to sing, and I didn't care how. And the when I joined the chamber choir, I started getting solo spots in the chamber choir. The chamber choir also sang chorus for the Grand Opera shows in Dublin. So I was suddenly then singing and learning chorus parts in opera, but the odd small role. And I was loving it, absolutely loving it. And all of this was happening. I mean, I took 6 months off, and all of this happened in a window of 6 months. And at the end of that 6 month period, another thing happened. So I was seen by a guy called James Nelson singing a solo role in the opera, and I was asked to join a group called the Three Irish Tenors. And because they had a significant booking, a 6 month booking in a cabaret, and they needed a tenor, and that's when that was the birth of the idea of the Celtic tenors.
Did you? I mean, did you have an idea how successful that idea would work? I know that there was the three tenors, and I know that they were
Yeah,
successful, but those were big names.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and I did watching that. Did you think, yeah, we could be that?
Not at all. I just thought this is the bandwagon. Let's get on it. It's an opportunity for us to sing those songs, and let's kind of be a tribute group, if you like, or something like that. Um, but the constraints of the show that we were in uh, kind of then played a part. We weren't able to do the songs that the tenors wanted. We were told what to do, and that had us sing a little bit of this classical crossover music. So the Time to Say Goodbye had just come out with Sarah Brightman and Andrea Bocelli, so that was in. But we also sang Ridi Pagliaccio, Pagliacci, some of the great classicals like Maria, the most beautiful sound from West Side Story, some beautiful old art songs like Because You Come to Me and The Holy City. These kind of songs that Holy City made another appearance there. So we ended up singing a really, really wide array of songs in this show. We did 137 performances in this show. We really had, uh, and there were solo opportunities in this show, and every night was fully attended. It was absolutely sold out every night, and it wasn't just us. So it was us with a woman called Rebecca Storm. She's a brilliant musical singer, music theatre singer in Ireland. She's from England, and a dancing crew, and so it was a real variety show. There was a comedian, a stand-up comedian as well. So that probably gave another sort of it widened the focus again. So where I was kind of getting more and more narrowed into the classical, suddenly this had me back even wider than I'd been before, and seeing that wow, there's a lot to be said for this musical theatre stuff. Songs like Bring Him Home or Empty Chairs at Empty Tables or this scenario kind of made us remove the constraints, if you like. So that ended. So we got to the end of that 6 month period, and we were good. We were really good. We were consistently singing big high notes, big exciting things, and the audience was. We could see the audience, the whole connection with an audience was really working. And we probably were getting a little bit of stagecraft. I was way behind the other guys at that stage because I was just straight off the drawing board or whatever. So we decided to try to get somebody who would help us. So we found a manager. This manager, he immediately, we invited him to one of the last shows in Clontarf Castle, this cabaret show, and he said that there's something here, and can I manage you? Yeah, sure. So he got us an audition with EMI Classics and with Decca Records in London. He felt that we needed to get an international record label to take the next step. So we got two offers on the same day.
Wow.
Immediately we got offers and the idea then was that we were going to do what we were doing. So we put with EMI Classics who signed us, we put together a concert in the National Concert Hall in Ireland of us singing all of the classics, the Placido, or the Domingo Pavarotti Carreras songs,
Right.
or arias and so on. And we did that. And the president and managing director of EMI Classics said, "Yeah, that's brilliant, great, but we've got Domingo and we've got Carreras and we've got all these people on our books. They do that better than you. What you need to find is something that you can do better than them." And that's when we started dipping our toe into the idea of fusing our voices, whatever they were, and our sound, if you like, into more Irish repertoire. And it was at that point that we thought, okay, we could actually be onto something here. And we found then that there was a mission to share our music around the world and try and approach it in a different way. We all loved harmonies, and we were productive. We made loads and loads of attempts at trying lots and lots of different songs from every genre, but particularly from Ireland and Scotland. And that's kind of what gave us something that was a bit unique and a bit new.
Did you know when you made that choice to do songs from Ireland and Scotland that it would relate to internationally, and was the thought that there's a lot of Scottish people and Irish people all over the world, they will instantly be fans, or that this is really music strong enough that anybody in the world could appreciate, and therefore,
Yeah, I think what I thought was that the music at that point, I think all we wanted was something that would blossom enough to allow us to no, I'm gonna actually revise that and say the fact that EMI Classics got involved gave us it expanded our dream. It meant that okay, the stage has widened. We were talking to people in America. We were talking to people all across the UK. We were talking to Germany. We had released our first record in Spain and France, Germany, Holland, England, and we started doing shows in those regions. So I think that gave us the courage to and the confidence to sort of say, right, this really could work. So to your question, yes, I think we did feel that. But why the Irish and Scottish material? Well, purely because it's in our boots, it's in our souls, it's in us, and not many others were doing this in this way. We were giving it a really musical approach, not as in musicals, but we were giving it we were approaching it. We wanted to add quality. We wanted to be progressive. We didn't want to be copying what anyone else did. And for a lot of years, many of the songs that we tried to do were done by us first. and by other groups that came later, like Celtic Woman, or I mean, even like Westlife. It seemed for a period of time, every time we would bring out a song, Westlife would come out about 6 months later and release that same song, because we were working with the same. Because Ireland is a small pool, we would. We talked with Louis Walsh, who I'm not sure if you're familiar with Westlife or with Boyzone, or there's a lot of boy bands. Louis Walsh was an entrepreneur who kind of put all those things together, and we knew him, and he knew us, and there was a great bit of cross pollination that went on. But yeah, we having made the first album and getting a bit of success in America as well as Canada as the UK, we really thought that this is the way to go. And then we got our first PBS show in about 2002 or something like that. And we thought this is definitely going to be it. And that's kind of where it all kind of went a bit of cropper.
I mean, could you imagine the success that you would get?
No, 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 no. I think yes. I think we did. We did feel that we had that what we did. I think the way it all happened kind of made it almost not inevitable, but the fact that I had a totally other career, I wasn't depending on this, but it was drawing me in really strongly. Everybody else who was involved with it were also totally committed. The level of commitment from all of us was 100%, and the fact that we got a proper manager who had worked with Thin Lizzy, who had worked with Eric Clapton, Queen, he gave us the encouragement. I think he was very he was a reality check kind of guy. He would say you can do this, but he was also very critical. So he was a really good teacher, I think, in many ways. Yeah, we thought it would work way better, in fact, because. Yeah, so I think we really had such belief in what we started to produce musically that we thought the world is going to fall in love with this, and it's going to be an absolutely game over story. But it wasn't quite that, but it was not far off it.
Well, I mean, the fact that you've toured the world, and some of the amazing places you've been to or the people you've played to, there's no way you could have imagined, singing for
No,
Kofi Annan or Bill Clinton or
no,
whoever.
no, absolutely not.
And then,
No, no, no. The specifics, no, absolutely, no. These kind of things you would never, never dream, not in a million years. But going to a concert in New York, do a show, loads of Irish people will come. Of course they will. That was pure naivety, of course. But it did happen to a certain degree.
well, I presume that continues to happen, no?
Yeah, it does. But I think so we've had two personnel changes in the 26 odd years that we've been together. So Niall, who was a founding member with myself and James, he left in 2006, and that brought in Daryl, who was from the north of Ireland. So he was we were all from the southern part of the Irish Republic. Um, that scenario when Niall left, that brought somebody in from a very different culture. So Daryl came from Presbyterian Oma, totally different set of values, musically and otherwise. And also, we were emerging out of a rotten time in Ireland where we had the Troubles and we had all that political unrest that directly affected Daryl. That brought in a whole other element, and it enriched the soul of the group. I think we still had all the same energy and drive as we do still, and that all kind of worked like a comet, really, until COVID, and James began to realize that maybe he was going to have to leave. So, just to retire. So James was a tiny bit older than me, and last year he decided that he was going to retire from singing in this way. I think it was the touring was just too much. So we got a new guy, George. He's also from Northern Ireland, but from the city of Derry, stroke Londonderry, and he's bringing a whole new bit of life and verve and influence and all that into the group again. So I think if it stays the same, I mean, we worked with it, for instance, with the Chieftains over the years. And the Chieftains are a massive, a massive act, but they essentially do the same show now that they did in 1973. Because our Irish tradition is, it's something that we worked very hard as a nation to save. There's can be an overbearing kind of need to continue preserving and not change a single note, not change how it's played, which of course is the absolute opposite of how it got there.
Right.
It got there by changing and evolving. And I think it took a few generations for the music scene and the Irish music scene to realize that you have to play with these with these tunes and these songs. You can't let them if you sing them the same way as they've always been sung, yes, they'll be saved. That snapshot in time will have been saved, but it won't be progressive. And I think that's one of the things that I find myself coming back to always. Don't be afraid to be progressive. And I think it's one of the things that you value about singing a Schubert song or singing some Schumann or Puccini. You sing it the way it's supposed to be sung, and it's always delivered in exactly the same way. So there are minute changes in how they're performed over the years, but I realized that, you know what, if I was and in the classical world, if you find out that you're a Rodolfo or you're a Tamino or you're a Ferrando or wherever that role might be that you're good at, you can get stuck in that role and end up doing nothing other than that role for your whole career. So you're essentially singing the same 10 songs every night. And that's one of the things that was maybe less appealing to me about that, and more appealing about doing what we were doing. There was the scope and opportunity. We can sing anything. We're a singing group. We're not. So another thing we did through the years, we toured a little bit with Air Supply. In fact, we recorded "I'm All Out of Love" with Air Supply, and when we were touring with them, we became very friendly with them. Two amazingly lovely guys, and the band they're lovely, lovely people. But they said, you're so lucky, guys. You're so lucky. You get to do different songs every night. We can only do our 10 songs, our 15 songs. If we leave out one of them, we're the worst in the world. And I remember going to a David Bowie concert. It was on the Glass Spider tour. I live near Slane. Slane in Ireland is where the biggest rock concerts happen every year. And I was so disappointed because David Bowie just sang what he wanted.
Right.
And he sang Glass Spider Tour, a load of stuff that nobody knew, and everyone was looking at each other going, what the heck's going on here? But so I understand from an audience's standpoint, they want to hear the hits. So we didn't have that trouble because we didn't write, our brand wasn't based on the hits, but it was based on taking songs and giving them a treatment.
But I'm sure that there's a bunch of songs that your audience now expects you to play.
Yeah, but it's interesting if you just drop off one every tour, then you can bring in a new one every tour. And sometimes you can do something really, really radical, like what we did last October in Belleville, in the Empire Theatre. We recorded with PBS a show of a brand new show. So we had a new member. So George replaced James. So we wanted to not just have a new member, but we wanted to have a whole new experience so that people could see, wow, there's life in the old dog yet. And there's definitely no question about it. If you stop doing a song for a period of time, for 2 or 3 years, and then bring it back again, it's suddenly got a whole new life. And and also you can become a little bit stuck in your, you know, I sing my line, you sing your line, and it can become a little bit, you know, just automated and not real music making. I think the ideal music making for me, if you ever go to a pub in the west of Ireland, you will see people playing the same old tunes, but they're all always it's much more when you're in that setting, it's much less strict and, you know, by the rules, and you see the way one person will, there'll be eye contact with all of the other players. So it's like an unspoken language of the eyes and in what's been played, as to how the piece will progress. And I think we all love that idea. And whereas we can't do that exactly, we can, in the way we perform and in the way we reapproach some of the songs that we've done, we can keep things fresh. And also by bringing in new material, we can keep things fresh. And you know, we're all a product of our stories as well. And with every new experience, a new story, often come new songs.
I wonder, like something like "Sweet Child of Mine," which is on the new
Yeah,
album. Could you have done
yeah.
that in the first couple of albums? Like, I think you've
No,
kind of bought yourself the ability to do more things
yeah,
now.
yeah. You're dead right. Yes, we did everything. We did so many types of songs, but mostly up until this one, they've been relatively lyric. I mean, the way we've approached "Sweet Child of Mine" is quite lyrical, and it's almost like a lullaby in a way. And we saw how songs can get hijacked, sometimes in a way that the writer wants, and sometimes in the way that the writer doesn't want. A few years back, we recorded "Come What May." You know that song
Hmm.
from The Greatest Showman, not from The Greatest Showman, from, oh, the one with Nicole Kidman and, uh, "Come what may, I will love you."
Is it
Moulin
Moulin
Rouge.
Rouge?
Moulin Rouge. And we were in America. We were in LA. We were recording the album, and the producers. This was one of the songs on a maybe list, and James was the one who was going to sing it. But we were struggling away with it, and we had done our arrangement based on what we'd heard on Moulin Rouge, which is in 4/4 in common time, and we were singing it, and we were kind of struggling with it a little bit when the producer called the neighbor. "Hey, David Bearwald, who's the writer of that piece. Got a few guys from Ireland doing your song here. Do you want to come over?" And I said, "Are you back yet?" "Yeah, I'm home." So where was he? David Bearwald had been playing bass with the Rolling Stones on tour. And he came, he was literally just back. He brought a baritone guitar with him, and he sat down and he talked with us about the song. And he said, first of all, Fox Searchlight decided to change it from 3/4, what it was written in, to 4/4. So they totally changed the structure of the song. He said, "I would love if it was recorded in its original version." And he explained to us what it's about. And it was about when his son was born. And he will love this son until the day he dies. You know, it wasn't about a girl, it wasn't about a dog, it was about his son that was just born, and gave us context and an honest way to approach it. So I think if you look at the words of a song, um, like "Sweet Child of Mine," I lived through that whole period when it was a huge hit,
Right?
and I didn't have a clue what it was about. But when you take it apart and try to understand the words and the motivations and how the song was put together, you realize it's a gorgeous classical song. It's a beautiful song. And yeah, so it made it a no-brainer to do. And the audiences love it. And in fact, our tour manager, he's a rocker from Minneapolis. So when he saw it when he saw that we were trying to do it, he just said, "Yeah, this is a bad idea, man." And he's now in tears listening to it. He loves it. He mixes it our sound from the house, and he said, "No, it really works. It should not work, but it works."
A little different question.
Hmm.
Would the work that I've done with classical musicians, I have come to appreciate the voice as an instrument, and that I just automatically
Hmm.
assume you sing well and you always sing well. But it is an instrument. When you go on tour, you have to be
Mm.
very careful about how you take care of your body. Or as you
You
get
really do.
older, I presume it changes and whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
At what point
absolutely.
did you realize? Because it wasn't like you were gigging all the time. At what point did you realize
Yeah.
that what you sang or your singing voice was an instrument and that it required a lot of work?
Early on, early on. So I think just after that first stint that we did in that cabaret event, we went on a tour of venues in Ireland in America. The song list was put together by somebody who didn't know what he was doing. So we were singing a lot of very heavy operatic stuff that was high. I had not yet. I found a teacher, a Scottish guy, who helped me with the top of my voice. It showed me just the technique of how to negotiate the F sharp is a passaggio. That's when the voice when you have to put it into a different register above it, and there was a technique of how to do that, and I'd never really. I was doing it naturally, and sometimes it was a bit hit and miss. So it's often why a young singer is not is not reliable at the top of their register, because you really have to be shown by somebody who fully knows what they're doing how to do it. So I wasn't there yet, and I went and did this tour, and on about show 17 in a row, I sang something and I pulled something in my neck, and I was it was so painful, and I wasn't able to sing above an F for about 3 months. And thankfully, there were only two concerts back home that suffered, but I had to cancel my only thing I've ever had to cancel, which was a Bach Magnificat, because I couldn't. I pulled a muscle, and so from that point on, I searched and searched, because my singing teacher Mary, who actually passed away last year, she was she was a woman. She didn't have the same physiology as me, and she knew the words for just how to say, you turn the voice or whatever, but she was never able to show me. And I was it wasn't that I couldn't do it; it's just that I wasn't confident, and I wasn't controlled enough to always do it the same way, or realize how important it was to always turn in the same way. Because you can sing these high notes without doing much of anything. But if you do this other thing that you're supposed to do as a classical tenor every time, then you can do it all day long. So I didn't know this. So once I found a really great teacher, Peter Wilson is his name. He showed me how to do this, and from that point on, and he also gave me a warm up that I still do to this day. I've got it on my phone. Every Before any show that I do, if I can get through that warm up, then I can do any show. And it's all a lot of it is about it's just yeah, vocal stamina is just so important. And the more you realize it, and in fact, it's interesting. They say the older you get, the harder a lot of these things are. But in my case, my technique is getting better as I'm getting older, and my voice has more colors in it now than it ever had. And and I'm much more in control of it now than I ever was. From a fairly green, just been an engineer person at the age of 27, I'm now 55, and I feel like I'm still I'm closer to mastering what Jussi Björling was doing in that recording that I heard all those years ago.
Are you, when you hear yourself every night, like let's say the most recent tour, are you
Yeah,
hearing the same thing every night? Like, is your voice pretty consistent? And then I presume because you have three voices, everybody has to be
yeah,
consistent.
yeah. I would say that's the thing that we value most in our instrument. So there's a few things that I'd like to say about the instrument. Um, there's I think, when you have a violin, you open it up, the violin is there and you can see it and you can play it. Um, there are different ways though that you can play the violin. You can play using harmonics. You can play like Stefan Grappelli and do lots of slides. You can play loose and fast like an Irish fiddle player, or you can play Stravinsky or you can play something that something very very virtuosic and classical. They almost sound like different instruments, and I think that's another thing that we had to learn. So yes, the whole vocal stamina side of it is really that's vital, and you're dead right. But the other thing that I would really like to say about the voice, a lot of singers call it their voice. It's for me, it's my voice, and it's not apart from me. But that's not what I wanted to say. What I wanted to say was this: that when we started and when we made our maybe our third record, we made it with the Dubliners. And the Dubliners were there's only one of them now alive, but they were all alive then, and they gave us great advice. They said, we were attacking these Irish and folk songs with our full force classical voices, and they essentially made it so clear to us that that is an idiotic thing to do. That before you got your voice trained, I mean, in my case, my granny or my mom and dad, or they said you have a lovely voice, you should get your voice trained. But the thing that we need to remember is you have a lovely voice, so don't forget how to use that lovely sounding voice. Because when you learn to become an operatic tenor and you just sing in that way, it doesn't necessarily suit other things that you used to sing when you had a beautiful voice. So the way I now see it is that every song needs to be given a certain treatment. I still have my voice, the center of the color of my voice. But if I want to sing Nessun Dorma, I'm going to use all of my classical technique. If I'm going to sing Roisin Dubh or The Parting Glass or something like that, I will use different muscles and sing in that way. I'll still sound like the same singer, but I'm not going to attack The Parting Glass with a Nessun Dorma voice. And it's often it's some of the things, and I don't want to name names or anything like that, but some of the biggest talents who are in the operatic world, when they attack a non-operatic material, it doesn't sound right at all. I mean, look at, well, I will mention Jose Carreras doing West Side Story, and Leonard Bernstein absolutely not having it, or jingle bells, jingle all the way. That's fine, but it's not for us. So we wanted to be as natural as we can be in whatever habitat we're in musically, and I think that's important.
I really appreciate getting to know you. Thank you so much for doing this. My final question: do you have goals at this point? I mean, you've accomplished so much, but are there personal or musical goals that you have?
Yeah, there's I've many, and absolutely. So musically, I think I want. So my primary one is that I want to remain a professional, happy singer, singing new material and singing songs until I'm very old. So that's one thing that I want to. That's one thing. I just love doing it. I don't want to stop. So that's one goal. The other is just I would like to sing one opera, whether it's La Boheme or a Mozart opera. That's one thing that I would really like to do. Yeah, I think maybe just do a little more. I mean, keep the Celtic tenors alive. I've loved the Celtic tenors. I've loved the camaraderie. I've loved the idea of a band of us traveling around the world together. It's a lot less lonely. We've met lots and lots of solo musicians over the years, there's often a lostness or a sadness about many of them because they're on their own all the time, and I think you can get a bit damaged if you're all alone all the time and you're depending on yes men all around you. Whereas with a band of people, I would love for that to continue.
It almost seems like there are no boundaries for what you do. And I'm sure there's songs you bring and you guys decide this isn't working. But, based on the types of music that you can sing and the types of music that you do sing, like that. And then you haven't even touched upon your original compositions, which I don't think there are many, but I think you
Yeah,
guys do work on writing
no,
your own stuff.
we do. We want to do a bit more. I think when you're in the business of singing great songs that are being written by some of the greatest writers in the world, when we produce an offering, it's never it's never up to scratch. But I think what it does do is I think it. I think we might be getting closer to writing a good song. I think I think a lot of this, like at the beginning of my career, it's about confidence and about getting the confidence to do what you do. And I think once you feel that you're not a fraud, that you're honestly doing what you're doing, and people appreciate it, then even if it's not a great song, bring in a new song every now and again, and out of 100, if one becomes good, then it's worth doing.
For sure. Matthew, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you very much. A pleasure.